And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another week, another edition of the Grand Platypus Open, number 95. I'm, of course, host ZvP, and with me, I'm joined by the lovely people in the chat, by my lovely plushies as well, and by these lovely two players. We have our first series ready and waiting for us, and we're diving right in. And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Royal Blood, we have the Australian Zerg player representing the Cranky Ducklings. It is Oreo. Let's go. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have as opponent, we have the Filipino Protoss player representing Berserker Esports. It is DaSh, aka DaSh. Here we go. And for those of you that have been in the know, welcome. And I apologize for being unable to cast this last 24 hours. For those who maybe aren't following us on social media or aren't a part of our Discord server, I did fall ill yesterday. I fell ill with the flu. I had a really high fever and I was throwing up and I couldn't eat. I couldn't get anything. My joints were aching and I could barely move. And yesterday it was rough, Pop. It was rough. I was like, oh, maybe I can cast WTL. Maybe I can make it. And by the time WTL came around, it was like, no. I could barely get out of bed. So yesterday was the worst of it. This morning was pretty rough as well, but after getting plenty of rest, plenty of fluids, plenty of water, I hydrated my hydras, I reclined my Reapers, Poppy, and last but not least, I did massage my Marines. And you know what? It worked like a charm. Feeling a lot better. For the first time in 24 hours, like a couple of minutes ago, I was able to eat. I was able to actually eat and keep it inside me, which was nice. And yeah, for the most part, the fever is gone. I still have a headache. I just took an ibuprofen, and hopefully that does me well. But for the most part, it should be good. For the most part, I have recovered, and I also didn't want to lose too much time casting. So we missed out on WTL yesterday, and we missed out on KSL this morning, the Korean StarCraft League. So missed out on 2 broadcasts already. I do plan on doing some catch-up streams later on in the week, so I'm going to try to squeeze those in at some point. But yeah, I didn't want to lose too much, just because it'd be a lot of catching up to do. It would be a lot of catching up to do, and we've done that before, and it can be rough, Bobby. It can be rough. So we'll try to make our way through it. Of course, after GPO today, we have WTL, World Team League Code A, continues tonight in 4 hours. And we'll see how I feel by the time WTL rolls around. I don't want to force myself if, again, I'm not feeling too well. But if I'm good, then we should be able to continue. Should be okay. Should be okay as we are getting into this so far. Hatch Gas Pool opener here from Oreo. Nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy. Of course, Oreo being one of my hijitos, someone near and dear to my heart, one of my many sons, and I do have a soft place for him within mi corazón, papi. So not biased at all. Meanwhile, DaSh, of course, is a good friend of Oreo. They have been practicing together for a long time. DaSh, a Filipino Protoss, has been working his way through the ranks, up the ranks, has been looking damn good recently, has been improving so much as a player. It's been so impressive to see him progress and really level up, and we'll see how he does against Oreo. Again, in general, Oreo is the favorite player, but DaSh has been improving over time, so I am ready to see what kind of bears fruit here. You know, what are we looking at? How good has he gotten? Because it's been a while, been a hot minute since I've had the luxury of casting DaSh even, goddamn. For now, is going to be taking his third base. It was a Stargate opener, Oracle into a third. We have a second Oracle on the way. This is going to be scattered by Oreo. He comes in, confirms everything. And of course, we do have a standard macro setup here from our Filipino Protoss. Meanwhile, from the side of Oreo, we're just droning. We're not going for any kind of committed aggression. There's no like queen push. There's no early roach horn. There's no early lair either. Everything is looking as it should. Very standard, very macro play from both players. Nothing too fancy. As the two oracles are zooming across the map as we speak, making their way towards the main base. There is a spore. There are 2 queens in position. There's a spore at the natural. There's 3 queens at the third. So Oreo has the tools to defend. Whether he can, whether he does, well, that's another question. We shall see as the oracles do head into that third base. 4 drones go down. Don't get a fifth, but 4 workers go down. Good focus firing on one of those oracles, but alas, DaSh does get away with a said oracles without too much issue. Does get the hell out of there and is able to get into his game. Hold on, I'm noticing a couple of frame drops. I'm just trying to deal with that while I can. Hopefully no issues. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. But yeah, so far some good harassing damage here from DaSh. Nothing really important to scout. Didn't really confirm anything, but the layer's finishing up at a regular time. We have our additional gases being taken. We have a roach ward on the way. Everything as it should be. Now my attention is suddenly on DaSh. Okay, we've set up on 3 bases. That's fine. But where do we go from here? He is being active with 3 oracles. Yes. We have Blink on the way alongside +1. We have what looks to be 6 gateways, which is nothing too crazy. From here, DaSh should be looking to expand, tech up, and take another base and take his gases. Otherwise, he could double down and throw down more gateways. That's exactly what he is doing. 2 more gates get thrown down. No additional gas, guys. This is looking like an 8 gate all-in here from our Protoss player. Again, 4 in the main, 2 at the natural, 2 at the 3rd base. So very hyper aggressive here from DaSh. But what is he running into? Something that I did just notice. It isn't just Ling Roach. 1, there's no Evo chamber for +1 melee, so it's going to be a very kind of gas-centric composition here from Oreo. No Lings, Roaches, and we're going right into Hydras. I'm really curious to see how this plays out. Typically, to defend against this all-in, you need Lings and Roaches. To go up into Hydras, this may be a little bit too greedy. Oreo may just be cutting too many corners here against what DaSh is bringing to the table. Again, he has 8 gateways. He's going to throw down a 9th on the front line. This is just a pure gateway all-in, 3-base all-in at a DaSh. We'll see if Oreo can survive. Here we go, as already Oreo, he dives on top of the army, gets a couple of hits in, but nothing goes down. Solid blink out of DaSh. Meanwhile, the pylon is now done. He is working on charge. After being deflected, it looks like we are transitioning. We throw down 2 gases, we throw down 2 robos. DaSh, he has lost confidence in this attack, and he is going to try to pivot away from it. So honestly, Oreo's in a really good position. I was really concerned that maybe DaSh would be able to break through this, but it looks like, again, DaSh, he himself just doesn't really feel too confident about this. We do see the army pushing on forward. A couple more of these Stalkers go down to the Hydras. Again, Oreo doing a great job at fending this off. He's going to be bleeding out a couple of Roaches here and there. This is what I was concerned about. These are expensive losses for Oreo. But the reinforcements come in. The Hydras putting in a lot of work. Again, Oreo, he hasn't made too many Hydras. He's really focusing on Roaches, but he's keeping the Hydras alive, maintaining the DPS of this army, and just powering on through. He still has to be very careful about those stasis traps. Doesn't want to trigger them. As he does a push on forward. Will lose the Overseer in the process, but does trigger that stasis trap in the end. And he's going, oh my god. I thought that was a run by. He's got a lot of Dropper Lords set up as well. A little bit fancy. This has been spotted by DaSh. He's going to be making his way over the Overlords. They gotta get the hell out of there. As some of them are going to get picked off. Supply blocking Oreo even. Meanwhile, again, DaSh has been transitioning. We do have 2 robos, but we haven't made anything yet. We need to get into Disruptors, Immortals, something here to support this army. There it is. Double Immortals are being produced at a time. That will help here against the mass Roach of Oreo, but it's going to take a while to really get into this. Again, DaSh's macro has been slipping a little bit because he's been hyper-focused and hyper-fixated on the attack. He did miss a couple of macro cycles, and he could have already been working on those Immortals. But here we go. We do see DaSh looking to harass here with these Oracles. The main army of Oreo just rotating around. He hasn't teched up any further. There's no Infestation Pit. There's no Hive from our Zerg player, which means no Vipers, no Lurkers, just pure Roach Hydra. No upgrades. This is so committed. I just realized he's only just now getting Roach speed, but which I think is an oversight. I don't think that was intentional. Bit of a mistake from Oreo. He needs to make this work. He needs to pull this off. Again, there's no upgrades at all for Oreo, other than speed and range for the Hydras. We do cancel that 4th base. Jobalor is once again being set up on the left-hand side. Oreo going to rotate back around. I do think Oreo maybe could have committed. It's difficult just because there's no roach speed, but there it is. Infestation Bit and Lurker Den. So Oreo, he is taking up into Hive. It's a late transition out of Oreo, but because DaSh doesn't have too many Robo units, I do think it's okay. I do think Oreo can get away with this. Meanwhile, the drop lords, they have been spotted. Oreo rotating over towards right-hand side. I'm sure he's hoping that maybe DaSh is pulled out of position, but he's ready and waiting. Good positioning from DaSh. Meanwhile, the army does meet up here with the Dropper Lords. We're going for the main. Uh-oh. DaSh has got a couple of Stalkers in position, but only 3 Stalkers. The main army of Oreo is still going to be threatening this 4th base. And we are just going to drop straight into the main. Zealots are being warped in here, but these Zealots are going to be cleaned up. DaSh reacting with his entire army. But he has a lot of Immortals, and now we have Colossi on the way. This is almost a pure Hydra army. Again, a very squishy, very vulnerable. He does take out a couple of these Stalkers. He's going to go top of the shield batteries. And the Immortals as well. The DPS is just too damn high. Overcharge gets triggered. Overcharge gets wasted at the same time. The drop in the main base is getting out of control. 9 workers go down, and we are camping the production. We're getting on top of the Colossus. Just barely. The Colossus is going to go up. Ah! It does not go down. Oh, he's going for it. He drops. Some fancy moves out of Oreo. Does drop over the wall. Takes down the Colossus. And DaSh is holding, but Oreo has successfully teched up into... never mind. No Hive yet. We have the tech for it, but there is still no Hive, so no Lunkers for the time being. I do think that this is, again, a late reaction, but there we go. Hive is finally on the way. Oreo a little bit late to that, but we're going for a base trade. This is what's dangerous. We need Lurkers, or Lurkers would help here in a base trade scenario. As DaSh loses his 4th, at the same time the center base is going down, and Oreo, he's gonna go! Puppy! Ah! Oreo just a little bit preoccupied with his drop. Time is working against both players. We gotta go as soon as we can. Bases are going down. Bases are under fire. Oreo with supply blocks. He actually cannot morph in any Lunkers even if he wanted to. He's gonna try to evacuate with some of these drones, but the drones will go down. They will not make it out. Oreo going to be expanding towards the bottom right. He is going to be taking down some of these fringe bases. He takes down the 3rd, takes down the main. Is there a there is a from the start of the game, from the 3 base all in, the probe is still alive, but no! The probe does go down. And it looks like Oreo should win out on this base trade. Looking at the units tab, do we have any probes? The answer is we do. Do you have a couple? Oh no! We do have workers and they escape. Somehow, some way, DaSh escapes with his workers. No, never mind. He runs into the Hydras. No. They're trying to escape. They're trying to make it out. We do have the main army of DaSh looking to meet up with these probes. Meanwhile, buildings are falling as we speak. The intercept. Ugh, a couple more workers do go down, but they are saved. They are saved in the end, and we can throw down a couple of gas geysers. Meanwhile, we are running out of buildings. This is all that is left. But again, we can throw down a Nexus, and DaSh should be able to throw one down. Oh, he's going to bottom right. He can't throw one down, not here. There's not enough room for a Nexus. We need another building. The last pylons are standing, but there we go. We go for the gold. DaSh does have a base. Meanwhile, Oreo is still mining. He's got a wall of spine crawlers. He's got a couple of drones. He's got 3 hatcheries up and running. Does lose bottom right. Sorry, 3. Yeah, he does have 3 hatcheries up and running. Has a 4th on the way. Oreo going to be consolidating his army. Looking at the unit tab. Okay. DaSh can take a fight. Uh-oh. Oreo, he has to be very careful. I do think that DaSh will win in a head-to-head engagement. He has 2 Colossi. He's up against 31 Hydras. But with good positioning, DaSh, he will come out on top. Here we go. We have the full surround. Surround is coming in. You can see Oreo trying to get on top of those Colossi, and this surround is just a little bit too good, a little bit too great. And DaSh is losing too much. As I say that, we do see him breaking through on the right-hand side. Yeah, Oreo, he's losing too much. We mentioned earlier that DaSh had the better army in a head-to-head fight, and Oreo tried his chances. GG gets called, and DaSh will take game number 1. GG. If only DaSh hadn't gotten away with all those probes. The probes that escaped, they saved him in the end. GG, well played. And DaSh will take game number 1. My condolences to Oreo. Again, that was a rough engagement to go for. What's frustrating about that game, though, I'm sure it's a little bit frustrating, is the fact that Oreo didn't have to fight. He had mining. Remember, he had bases, he had mining. He could potentially take a more defensive stance. Remember, he had a wall of spines on the way. He could take a defensive stance with the spine crawlers, go for a longer game, rebuild his army. It's a risky thing to go for, but alas, it may have worked out a little bit better in the end there if we had gone for that kind of decision. In the end, DaSh did come out on top, and he does take the first game. GG. But it's a best of 3. It's a full series. You know, we can bounce back, we can come back, and I believe game number 2 is going to be on Gresvan. Here we go. Meanwhile, exclamation mark B in the chat if you guys want to have a look at the bracket yourselves. Plenty of games are going on. And, oh, we already have an update. I did not expect it to go by that quickly. But apparently... Oh, I should let them know that we are good to go. But apparently Nice... As I should fix this as well. God damn. Always messes up. But Nice is... Or he did take down Ender 2-0 in a very fast series. In that game 1, they had a best of 3. Crazy. Nice is working his way through the lower portion of the bracket and is going to be facing off against Demi in the next round. And here we go. Spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Gresvan, we have the... Looks like we're going to be remaking. Going to be going into... It's all good. Whether it was the wrong server, I'm pretty sure Gresvan is game 2, but we will be remaking. Resolving any issues that we have. Not good. There's wondering, I am drinking Gatorade. I'm trying to rehydrate. Oh, I say Gatorade, it's Powerade. Powerade, sorry. Trying to rehydrate. Trying to recover all my electrolytes. You know how it is. How it is. I'm catching up in the chat. Hello, Pobomb in the chat. Welcome, welcome. Jumping in for the first time. Hope you're enjoying your stay. Like speedrunning and recovering from the flu. Oh, I'm trying. And here we go. We're getting into our next game. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Gresvan, we have our Australian Zerg player representing the Cranky Ducklings. I need to set up the flags. Next time, I'll set up the flags. It is the purple Zerg player. It is Oreo. And spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Filipino Protoss representing Berserker Esports. It is DaSh. Leading the series 1-0. And again, I do think that the base trade was the best option for DaSh at that time. DaSh was the player who initiated the base trade, or who sent everything across the map. He was being pulled apart, and it did work out in his favor. Again, things got very chaotic in that last game, and I don't blame Oreo too much for, you know, other decisions that could have been made throughout. Regardless, was very closer towards the end, and we'll see how things turn out here in game number 2 and what kind of styles we go for. It was very interesting to see Oreo go for a Roach Hydra heavy composition, eventually into Lurkers, or we never really got into Lurkers, but eventually taking up in that direction. Really interesting. We don't really see that too often. Roach Hydra in this kind of meta in ZvP, so it was really interesting to see it come to fruition. It actually did work out quite well. Definitely a little bit rough around the edges, but looked pretty solid overall against DaSh specifically. And against that 8 gate as well, the 8 gate 3 base all in. DaSh was in a rough position after that failed, and he had a really shaky transition out of the 8 gate as well. So yeah, that definitely could have gone either direction. So hopefully Oreo is undeterred. Hopefully he is able to, maintain his composure and get into this and create a series out of it. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased because he's my boy. He's a Duckling, quack. But regardless, whether this goes, the way of the Protoss or the way of the Zerg, I would love for this to go to the ace match at least, and we can really get as much as we can out of these two players. That is my hope anyway, my hope. As we are getting into our next game. So far, Stargate opener out of DaSh, nothing too crazy. He does scatter across the map, does confirm the expansion. The Lings are going to be shutting this down, and Oreo should be taking his third base momentarily, forcing that probe away and taking that third. So far, pretty standard stuff here from both players. Once again, nothing too fancy in the early game. I don't really expect anything too fancy from either of these players. We have seen Oreo go for all-ins before, but that's typically when he's up against a player who he believes is either, who's like, I guess, terrifying. We've seen it against Nice, we've seen it against Probe, going for these more decisive plays. On a map like Gresfan, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to really pull that off. It's a very large map, very macro-oriented. So these queen pushes through the center, they take a long time to get through, and they're not really too ideal. We've been seeing some mixed success with queen all-ins on this map. As we are getting into this. And so far, DaSh, he should be looking to expand, take his third base. The Oracle's going to be coming out as well to protect set third. Everything is looking as it should. Lings are getting ready for a run by, but really they're going to be here to delay the third if possible, or even force the activation of the pulsar beam. Alas, only a handful of Lings. They at least confirm the third base, and DaSh is going to be able to get it up and running without too much issue. Second Oracle's on the way. And back at home, Oreo, he's just droning, building up his queen counter. This time he does throw down an early Evo chamber. Remember, last game there was no Evo chamber at all. It was just pure Roach into Hydra, into pure Hydra towards the end, with 0/0 upgrades. This time, though, Oreo is going to be working on +1 melee, or it seems to be +1 melee, so he's going to be going for a more Ling Roach or Ling Hydra heavy style instead of Roach Hydra that we saw last time. Which makes sense on a larger map. Does make sense. There it is, +1 melee's on the way. Oracle's going to be dipping in between the bases, looking for some of these transferring workers. They do find 3 of them. Very nice pick off here from DaSh. Very unfortunate timing for Oreo, as they were in the middle of, again, being transferred over towards that third. So nice pickups here from our Filipino Protoss. Behind this, we have our transition. It's not just a Forge and a Twilight Council +1 and Blink. We have a second Forge as well for 1/1. So looks like Oreo isn't the only one mixing up their army compositions. DaSh is as well. So we are going for a different approach overall. This tells me that this is not going to be an 8-gate all-in from DaSh, like we saw in game 1. This tells me that he plans on investing quite a lot more in these upgrades. He plans on investing more in tech and going for a longer game. We'll see if he can get there. For now, Oracle's going to be scouting. They get eyes on the lair timing. Nothing too crazy. Look. Gateways are being thrown down as well. So far, it's only going to be 6 gateways here from our Protoss player. Nothing too out of the norm. Oh, and Oreo. It isn't just Ling Roach, he's going for a Baneling Nest as well, which is to be expected. This is going to be Ling Bane Roach Ravager, a very standard or a very well-rounded unit composition here in the mid-game of ZvP. It works wonders, especially when fighting on creep, but as we can see, DaSh doesn't really intend to be too active. He's moving out with Stalkers, yes, but that's only because Blink is about to finish. He's going to be very careful with how he maneuvers. He's going to be focusing on clearing up this creep and dancing with the army of Oreo. DaSh isn't going to be committing. The reason for that is because he just threw down 2 robos. 2 robos into a bay, into Colossus production. After the Immortals, of course. Before that does really come into swing, we do have a massive Link counterattack. Does catch us around on these Stalkers. Does get one Stalker in the end. But only a single Stalker, as DaSh does manage to blink back to the safety of his third base. We have plenty of stack defense here. Again, I mentioned earlier that DaSh is going to be taking a more defensive approach. He's just taking up really hard. He should be working on a fourth base. He's just building himself up here. Doesn't really intend on killing Oreo anytime soon. And this does give Oreo a lot of freedom. He should, by seeing this, he should recognize, okay, my opponent's being more defensive. I should be droning. I should be taking a fourth, taking a fifth, getting up to 80 workers and taking up into Hive. If Oreo doesn't do this, then I worry for him, because by the time the Colossus come out, ideally Oreo would have Vipers. Ideally Oreo would be taking up into a Hive to meet up with the tech of his opponents. Without things like Vipers, without Hive tech, it can be difficult to deal with this death ball of an army that is building up here for the Protoss. Meanwhile, Oreo, he's actually focusing on his army production right now. He's droned up to 77. Just under max saturation, essentially. He's going to once again apply pressure here at this base. He has eyes on the fourth base locations. And again, he's still committing here to just +2 into bailing speed, roach speed as well. I do worry that Oreo's tunnel visioning a little bit too much. I mean, Oreo is about to max out. So, as much as this is concerning me, and it is, you know, he's already up against 2 Colossi. He's about to be up against 4 Colossi. Pushing into this third base with Lingbane Roach Ravager, there's potential that maybe we can break the third, but this is such a risky maneuver for Oreo to go for. We're going to be seeing a lot of Bailings morphed in. I'm talking, oh, there we go, a lot of Bailings. We're going for one big attack. Again, there's no like Hive tech behind this. It's one and done here for Oreo. Borderline all in. I say borderline all in because it needs to trade well. Otherwise, things are going to very quickly snowball in favor of DaSh. As the 4 Colossi have arrived, we're going to be seeing Disruptors after this. Oreo going to be luring his opponents onto creep. This is going to be ideal for him. He is setting up a big Bailing counterattack. Fourth base is now being taken. Bailings are there headed towards that third base mineral line into the natural as well. And the probes are going down. This is going to force an all-in as every worker is going down in the main, in the natural, in the third base. And now we can focus on the main fight. Bailings crashing on in. Can they get on top of the Colossus? Up. Good connections with these Bailings, but is it enough? The Colossus survive. The Colossus, they barely do survive. And Oreo has to remax as quickly as possible. He has crippled the economy here of DaSh. He is forcing him all in. And Oreo has to take this slow. Time is on his side. Just has to focus on rebuilding, remaxing, but are we going in too soon? He's trying to line it up here with his stasis trap. He's going to be able to get on top of one of the Colossi. The Immortals are looking exposed as well, but we're bleeding out a lot of roaches. Oof. A lot of roaches are going down. And it looks like Oreo, he's barely getting on top of that second Colossus as well. That was not an efficient trade, by the way. Oreo, he threw away like 50 supply of roaches, killing 2 Colossi. But he did it. And you know what? He still has a decent economy. He's remaxing once again. And DaSh is forced to back off. DaSh attempting to lick his wounds, attempting to recover his economy. No, the wall is still not a wall. Lings, they bust into the natural again. They bust into the main once again. They're getting damage done. They're also distracting DaSh, keeping him at home while Oreo builds up his army. And now he's taking up. Now we have an infestation pit. Now we have +1 range on the way. And he is pulling his opponent apart. While the army is distracted in the main base, we do see him go for a big counterattack here at the 4th. Do force a recall. The workers are softened up, but nothing too major. The roaches, they pulled back for a moment because Oreo didn't know what was being recalled. Upon seeing the sentries, he's like, oh, we can fight this. But the Colossus arrive and Oreo is forced back. He is remaxing once again. 200 supply, Lingbane Roach Ravager. Oreo looking to engulf this army. StarDash, the pressure is on him to move out. That's the problem right now. He doesn't really have much at all. He's a dead man walking as Lings, they flood into the bases once again. The wall, it's never gonna be a wall. Station trap, okay. It doesn't go up. And Oreo, he F's in the chat. GG, well played. Oreo will take game number 2. We have an ace match. GG, let's go, Poppy, let's go. I was concerned again. Oreo, the way that he was playing that out was very committed. We saw him build up a mass amount of Ling Bane, and it paid off. He killed 3 mineral lines. We saw the Protoss. We saw DaSh go down to 20 workers after that Baling run by, after that Baling counterattack. And we saw that Oreo did have enough to hold on back at home. He did have enough to survive the all-in. It was a little bit close, and DaSh was trading efficiently, but DaSh didn't have an economy to sustain himself, to recover, to keep warping in, to keep producing more Colossi. He had nothing left. He was all in. GG. GG, well played. With that, we are going all the way to game 3. Game numero 3. Wimo in the chat. Hello, Rowdy. Rowd, Bobby. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. Go. Hope all is good. Just messaging some players for nada Miyamika. There's wondering Miyamika. It looks like he just woke up. Kappa. He just showed up a little bit too late, so he will not be a part of this week's tournament. Unfortunately, we haven't gone over the bracket yet, but we will once we wrap up this series. Just haven't had the luxury of diving into it. So our games have just been really intense, and yeah, back to back to back. We're getting into it. We are getting into our ace match, which is going to be taking place on Dragon Scales. Oh, all right. DaSh is saying that he didn't realize that what he added his wall was actually a changeling, which is true. We didn't get to point it out, but there was a zealot in that wall, but it was a changeling, and I guess that had thrown DaSh off a little bit. Here we go. We are getting into our next game, and spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Dragon Scales, we have the... Oh, I forgot to set the flags. God, I'll do it for the next one. In the bottom right-hand corner of Dragon Scales, we have the Australian Zerg player representing the Cranky Ducklings, as he is one of our own. It is Oreo. And spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Filipino Protoss representing Berserker Esports. It is DaSh. Here we go. Oreo versus DaSh. Game 3. It all ends here. And we've had some pretty similar games so far. What I mean by that is every game has kind of gone the direction of a base trade. Game 1 was a straight-up base trade between two players. Game 2... StarDash was forced all in and forced to commit to a big attack again, kind of like that first game where he was forced to attack. So we'll see how this story ends. We'll see how game 3 ends. We have another like big run by big counterattack, forcing DaSh to move out across the map. What's scary is that we're on Dragon Scales. Dragon Scales is a pretty small map compared to Gresfan, compared to Altitude, Ancient Cistern, all these other big boy maps. Dragon Scales is a bit smaller, less bases, rushes us by ground, quite short as well, so when it comes to these big ground-based pushes, they can hit quite hard. It was a similar story on Royal Blood, which is why we saw DaSh go for an 8-gate all-in on Royal Blood, which made plenty of sense. I wouldn't be surprised if DaSh goes for another aggressive build. Last game, we saw DaSh take things slower, right? He got double forge, he stayed on 3 bases, he took his gases, teched up to double robo. It's kind of what we expected on Gresfan, because Gresfan is more macro-oriented. This game, I don't expect that. I do expect more of a game along the lines of Royal Blood than Gresfan. But we'll see. We shall see, as this should be another Stargate opener here from DaSh again. The second pylon is pretty far forward. Those wondering, typically if we want to hide our tech and if we want to go for a Twilight Council opener, then we would be throwing down the pylon behind the mineral line, or just further back to keep it hidden from any kind of prying eyes from these overlords. By having it more far forward, this means that the Oracle gets across the map a couple of seconds faster. It doesn't sound like a lot, but a couple of seconds is pretty meaningful in StarCraft. It can change everything. StarCraft is a very unforgiving game, and as you can imagine, these players are going to be looking to just punish their opponents whenever they can, at every opportunity, at every moment, at every chance. Meanwhile, Oreo, he's going to be getting his 3rd base. We have a couple more Lings on the way here, so it looks like Oreo, he's going to have a presence on the map to delay the 3rd base. The Lings are finishing up. Link speed is on the way. The Lings are moving out. Getting headed across the map. Back at home, DaSh just getting himself set up, working on his oracles. Walling up. Looking to be active, while Oreo sneaks out to delay that 3rd. Oh, even fanning out his Lings, making sure that there's no stray pylons. The Lings do get across the map in time, and they do get eyes on that probe. Do they get it up? They do get a kill on the probe. DaSh unable to save it in time, unable to react in time. And again, that's already a small win for Oreo. He's coming back in, forces the activation of the pulsar beam. He wants that probe once again. It looks like up. Oh, he does get it, but not before it does throw down the Nexus. So some nice damage, but that was 1 second off from delaying that 3rd. Regardless, nice moves from Oreo. He's forced to back off, and DaSh can finally get his 3rd up and running. Meanwhile, we have our transition, Twilight Council, Forge, as to be expected. Standard follow-up here from DaSh. Should be +1 and blink. Behind this, Oreo is droning up his natural and his 3rd base, getting fully saturated. The Oracles have yet to really do much damage across the map. As the Oracles move out, the Lings move in. Oh, and they could even try to get us around on the Adept, but they do not quite get it. Meanwhile, across the map, DaSh is unable to get too much damage done. The Adept does get surrounded, and it does go down. So again, just really nice pickoffs. These aren't like the biggest trades. These aren't the biggest things here that Oreo is getting, but every little bit counts. 2 probes, an Adept, a delayed 3rd. It all adds up over time. Meanwhile, we have a bit of a gateway explosion. This is going to be 6 gateways on 3 bases. Pretty standard setup so far by DaSh. Everything's still looking as it should. Meanwhile, Oreo is taking that center base. No, he does have an Evo chamber, but no upgrades yet here from Oreo. He's going for his lair, taking additional gases. No Roach Warren. That is a bit odd. This could be Mutas even. +1 melee's on the way. The Roach Warren now gets thrown down. A very late Roach Warren here for Oreo. But he hasn't taken his gases at his natural, so he doesn't have the economy to sustain either Mutas or Hydras, so it's just going to be Ling Roach. Just Ling Roach for the time being, but just a really greedy approach to this. Like, Oreo has been droning like a madman, taking his 4th. And now focusing on his army. I do think the +1 melee is delayed. It is a little bit later than I think we would have liked. Do you think we could have afforded to start it earlier? Same with the Roach Horn, to be honest, for Roach speed. Regardless, Oreo just focusing on his Lings, containing his opponent. Oh. As we have more gates on the way. It is going to be an 8-gate all-in. Remember earlier how I said that we should be playing more like we did on Royal Blood as opposed to Gresvan? Well, just like Royal Blood, this is a 3-base, 8-gate all-in from DaSh. 7 gates at home, 1 gate across the map. The game will end one way or another. I mean, we saw DaSh can transition out of this if it doesn't get too much damage done. But here we go. Stalkers are moving forward. Lings do force a blink. A lot of safe traps are being thrown down. DaSh warping in as much as he can behind this. Roaches are now on the way. There is no Roach speed. Bear that in mind. There we go. Roach speed just now starts. Safe traps are being triggered. 1 Stalker goes down. DaSh has to be careful. He has only lost 1 Stalker so far, but he has to preserve every single one for as long as he can. This all-in does gain momentum over time, and he's already breaking through the Queens. Oreo's got another base on the way. He does go for a big Ling counterattack. Does force a warp in back at home, and an overcharge. Oh, the Lings went down. The Roaches are slowly falling one after the other. DaSh trading well. But a couple of Stalkers are going down. You can see Oreo coming back home with his Lings. Again, the Lings are so important to buffer and to support these Roaches and the Queens. 7 Stalkers for 7 Roaches so far. More Lings in production. Again, this is looking very close. The Queens are getting very low. Yeah, boys are being pulled at Oreo. He knows he cannot hold on to this base. The base will go down. Oof, a lot of Overlords are going down as well. Oreo, he has to commit. Pushing on forward, but there may just be too much Protoss. As Oreo, he's holding on by the skin of his teeth. He loses the hatchery in the end. Yeah, there just aren't enough Lings to support this army. DaSh has just gotten out of control. Zelts have broken into the mineral line as well at that center base. Too many Stalkers. And of course, the Blinks have been looking pretty good as well. Blinks have been amazing here for DaSh. As Lings are trickling on in. But once the Lings go down, then DaSh, he gets onto the juicy center of this army, onto the Queens, onto the Roaches. And this is just too much damage. Oreo can't keep up. GG gets called. And DaSh takes the series 2-1. GG. GG, well played. Oh, Oreo just catching onto it a little bit too late. Also cutting a lot of corners. I mentioned earlier, +1 melee did feel delayed. The Roach Warren was delayed, which meant the Roach speed was delayed. And because of that, all of this, it was basically because Oreo was being greedy. He was being greedy, setting up for a longer game, didn't realize how much danger he was in. Obviously didn't get eyes on the proxy gateway that was being thrown down. And that was a good execution from the 3-base all-in of DaSh. GG. And this is honestly a pretty big win for him. Like, I am aware that DaSh has been improving over time, that DaSh has been getting better and better as the months have gone on. And that's really showcased here because, again, on paper, I would say that Oreo is the stronger player, by far. But DaSh, he's finally getting some results. He's finally getting the results that he's been looking for, and to take down Oreo is very impressive. So, GG. Well played. Obviously, my heart bleeds for Oreo, but well executed and well hidden build as well by DaSh. Able to pull that off and move on into the next round. GG, well played. And with that, we can finally take a look at the bracket.